Now let us move on to the next part, children, which is the permanent tissue. So with this, the meristematic tissue is over. We saw the the flow chart, right? So we saw that tissues are divided into meristematic and permanent. In meristematic, we studied about apical, intercalary and lateral meristem. And in apical meristem, we saw root apical meristem and the shoot apical meristem. Now we are going to start with the next part, which is the permanent tissue. Okay, now let's see about the permanent tissue. So these permanent tissues, എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇത് form ആവുന്നത്? So meristematic tissues will be dividing, right? And these permanent tissues, as the name say, they are mature tissues. It means that they will not divide. Okay, അത് ബേസ് ചെയ്തില്ല ടിഷ്യൂസിനെ രണ്ടായിട്ട് ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്ത് permanent and the meristematic tissue. So if you see the permanent tissue, the cells which are produced by primary and secondary meristems, they will become structurally and functionally specialized. Okay, ഈ പ്രൈമറിയും സെക്കൻഡറി മെറിസ്റ്റമും ഫോം ചെയ്യുന്ന ടിഷ്യൂസ് ഒക്കെ എന്താവും? They will structurally and functionally they will get specialized. It means that they will start performing certain function inside the plant. Okay, and they will lose the ability to divide. Okay, so once they start structurally and functionally they become active, they will lose the ability to divide. Okay, and such cells which that is such tissues which cannot divide are called permanent cells or mature cells, and they form the permanent tissue. Okay, ഇപ്പോൾ മെറിസ്റ്റമാറ്റിക് സെൽ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ടിഷ്യൂ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് they can divide continuously, and once the primary and secondary meristems are giving rise to structurally and functionally specialized cells, they will lose the ability to divide. Okay, and then what happens? Such cells will become permanent or mature cells, and they constitute the permanent tissue. Okay, understood it. So this is about the permanent tissue. Now let us learn about the types of permanent tissue. So there are two types of permanent tissue. One is simple permanent tissue, and the other one is the complex permanent tissue. So permanent tissues are of two types. One is simple and the other one is complex. Let us now first start with the simple permanent tissue. As I said, the cells of the permanent tissue do not generally divide further, and permanent tissues having all cells similar in structure and function are called as simple permanent tissues. എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഈ simple permanent tissues എന്ന് പേര് വന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, these are the tissues which have all cells similar in structure and function. ഓക്കെ, ഈ സിമ്പിൾ പെർമനൻറ്റ് ടിഷ്യൂവിൽ എല്ലാ സെൽസും ഓരോരോ പാർട്ടിൻ്റെയും എല്ലാ സെൽസും സെയിം ആയിരിക്കും, സിമിലർ ആയിരിക്കും ഇൻ സ്ട്രക്ചർ ആൻഡ് ആസ് വെൽ as in the function. Okay, and such tissues are called as simple tissues. Okay, and permanent tissues having many different types of cells are called as complex tissue. We told that permanent tissue is divided into two, simple and complex. ഈ simple ഉം complex ഉം തമ്മിൽ എന്താ വ്യത്യാസം? Simple tissues will have similar structure and function. Okay, so simple tissues will have all the cells which are similar in their structure and function, and complex tissues, they will have different types of cells. Okay, so now let us start with the simple tissue, right? So the tissues having all cells similar in structure and function are called as simple tissue. Okay, and the various simple tissues in plants are 3 in types. 3 തരത്തിലാണ് ഈ simple tissues ഉള്ളത്. One is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So these are the 3 types of simple tissue: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Right? Now let us learn about each of this simple tissue in detail. So if you take the first one, which is the simple permanent tissue, which includes the parenchyma. Okay, let us see about the function of parenchyma. This parenchyma is the major component within organs. ഒരു ഓർഗൻസിൽ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ കാണുന്നത് it is the parenchyma tissues, right? And the cells of these parenchyma are generally isodiametric. Isodiametric means they will have equal diameters. Okay, so they are isodiametric and they may be spherical, oval, round, polygonal or elongated in their appearance. Okay, so they are the major component within the organ. ഒരു ഓർഗൻ എടുത്താൽ അതിൽ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ കാണുന്ന സിമ്പിൾ ടിഷ്യൂ ആണ് പാരൻകൈമ. പ്ലാന്റ് ഓർഗൻ എടുക്കുമ്പോൾ we see this parenchyma as a major component, and the cells of parenchyma are generally isodiametric, which means that their diameters will be equal. Okay, so they have equal diameters. You can see it here, right? So they have equal diameters and they may be spherical, oval, round, they may be polygonal or elongated. Okay, and their walls are thin and made up of cellulose. Okay, so their outermost walls will be thin and they are made up of cellulose. I hope you know what is cellulose, right? So it is a type of a structural element which provides stability to the cell wall, right? Cell wall is made up of cellulose, right? So here these parenchymas are made up of thin walls and it is composed of cellulose. And cells of these parenchymas are closely packed or they have small intercellular spaces. അപ്പോൾ ഈ parenchyma cells എങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കും? ഭയങ്കര closely packed ആയിരിക്കും. Okay, it means that they will have only very small intercellular space. You can see the space here. Only a very little space is present between the cells of these parenchyma tissues, right? So what are the major characteristic of this parenchyma? It's major component. It is the major component within the organs. The cells are generally isodiametric and they may be spherical, oval, round, polygonal or elongated. Their walls are thin and it is made up of cellulose. And how are the cells? They are closely packed and they have smaller intercellular spaces. Now let us see about the functions of these parenchyma. So these parenchyma performs various functions like photosynthesis. They help in photosynthesis, they help in storage and secretions. Okay, so these are the functions of the parenchyma. Photosynthesis എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ photosynthesis നടക്കാൻ അത് സഹായിക്കും and they help in storage of food and other substances and also in certain secretions of the plant. Okay, and such a tissue is called as parenchyma. Now let us see the second one, which is the collenchyma. What is it? Collenchyma. If you take the case of the collenchyma, it occurs in the layers below epidermis in dicot plants. Dicotyledon plants, it is a layer which occurs just below the epidermis. Epidermis ആണ് outermost layer. ആ epidermisന്റെ തൊട്ട് താഴെയാണ് collenchyma cells ഉണ്ടാവുക. You can see here the collenchyma tissues are seen just below the epidermis. So this is the epidermis portion. ആ epidermisന്റെ just below ആണ് these collenchyma tissues are found. Right? So epidermis is the outermost layer of a plant cell. Okay, and it is found as a homogeneous layer or in patches. Homogeneous means it is nothing but it is the same type of cells which is found in layers or in patches. Okay, it says that the plants will have this collenchyma in two ways. One is they might have this uniform layer of cells. അപ്പോൾ collenchyma cells ഒരേപോലെയുള്ള collenchyma cells ഇങ്ങനെ arrange ആയിരിക്കാം, or else in some places they can be seen in patches also. Okay, patches എന്തിനാണുള്ളതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ to provide the structural support to the plant body. Okay, and its cells have much thickened corners due to deposition of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. You can see here, this is collenchyma. You can see the thickened corners. You can see the corners are thickened, right? So this is the cell wall and their corners are thickened here. ഇതാണ് cell wall. ആ cell wallന്റെ edge portion you can find the thickenings there. Okay, and these thickened corners are due to the deposition of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. Okay, അപ്പോൾ ഇത് deposit ആവുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് their corners will be thick and intercellular spaces are absent. It means that it will not have intercellular spaces. You can see it here. There will not be any intercellular spaces. And how are these cells? These are oval, spherical or polygonal and often contains chloroplast. Okay, so these are the cells who will be oval, spherical or polygonal and they will contain the chloroplast. Okay, and function of these collenchyma is it provides mechanical support to the growing part such as young stem and petiole of a leaf. I told you they occur in patches, right? And they occur in patches to provide mechanical support to the growing parts. And either parts to the young stem and petiole of a leaf. And cells having chloroplast will assimilate food. Okay, so cell which is containing chloroplast will be assimilating the food. It means that it uses up the food. Understood it? Now let us move on to the next part, which is the sclerenchyma. Now seeing about the third type, which is the sclerenchyma. So this sclerenchyma, it consists of long narrow cells with thick and lignified cell walls. Okay, you can see the long narrow എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ കൂടുതലായിട്ട് വലുപ്പം ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. It will be narrower, right? So നല്ല space ഉള്ളിൽ ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. It will be little narrower with thick and lignified cell wall. Okay, it will be having thick cell wall and it is lignified. Lignified means it is becoming rigid. The cell will become rigid, strong ആയിരിക്കും, and it will become woody by the deposition of lignin in the cell wall. Lignin എന്ന് പറയുന്ന substance അതിൻ്റെ cell wall deposit ആവുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് they are thick and they have lignified cell wall, which means that it will be rigid and woody due to the deposition of the lignin. Okay, lignin എന്ന് പറയുന്ന substance അവിടെ deposit ആവുന്നതുകൊണ്ടാണ് it is acting as a woody or rigid surface. Understood? And they have a numerous or few pits in them. Pits എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് you can see the empty small spaces. കുഴീനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ pit എന്ന് പറയുക. അതുപോലെ ചെറിയ ചെറിയ pits അല്ലെങ്കിൽ we will find numerous pits in these sclerenchyma cells. And they are usually dead without protoplast. Okay, so these cells are usually dead cells without protoplast. These are dead because they are without protoplast. What is protoplast? The living content of the cell along with the cell membrane or the cell wall together is called as the protoplast. Okay, and as there is damage in the cell wall, they become a dead part of the plant. Okay, so they are usually dead without protoplast, which means that the protoplast will be removed. It means that their cell walls will be removed or it will be broken down, and this results in the dead cells. And based on the form, structure, origin and development, sclerenchyma is of two types. Okay, so how many sclerenchymas are there? It is there are two types of sclerenchyma, and it is based on the form, their structure, origin and development. Okay, അവരുടെ രൂപം അവരുടെ രീതി എങ്ങനെയാണ്, സ്ട്രക്ചർ എങ്ങനെയാണ്, ഒറിജിൻ എവിടെ നിന്നാണ് അത് ഫോം ചെയ്ത്, and how it has developed. Based on that, sclerenchyma is of two types. One is fibers and the other one is sclerites. Okay, so one is fibers and the other one is the sclerites.